as y'all start to come in, take a seat, take a handful of the mean, get comfortable, and listen to the wisdom. I'm here to talk about this Cowboys schedule that came out, about 5 or 6 days ago. It is, frankly, football. Let's see what we got. Let's get some of this. Let's get some of these sounds up in here. There we go. Let me go ahead and transfer that over on the OBS. How's everybody doing? There we go. See, I'm here today to talk about this schedule that came out, right? And why I think every game on this schedule is winnable because, the masses, the public, I think that they still got PTSD from the 2021 season. The hype was real last year. The hype was real. And losing in the playoffs, getting bounced, it left some people shattered. It shattered hopes and dreams. And some people I think are afraid to get back into that headspace of wanting success again, So I'm here to get back into people's minds that I think that this team is a lot better, or at least marginally better, than a lot of the competition that it faces. And I think that y'all need this. I think that y'all need this because as we go through camp and things like that, I think that some people will succumb to some of the talk from other people, whether it be on Twitter or from other content creators. So let's hop right into it, man. I think that the week 1 game against the Buccaneers, it kind of gets played out a little bit, playing the same team twice in a row. But, I'm glad that we kind of get that run back because in 2021, we only lost to them by 2 points. But now they don't have Bruce Arians anymore. Bruce Arians isn't their head coach. He is still there in a consulting role. But I don't think that it has been mentioned how important it is that Bruce Arians isn't there coaching those young guys anymore. Sure, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady doesn't need coaching, and I'm still going to put respect on his name, even though Set It Off Chris isn't here with me right now. But think about guys who may have been drafted in the last 2 years or so that would need Bruce Arians' guidance. Think about guys like Tristan Wirfs or Antoine Winfield. Jesus, slid over that name. Think about Joe Tryon or any of the guys that were drafted in this year. Man, none of those names are coming to me. And this can apply to older guys as well, But even though Todd Bowles is a well-respected coach, and I'm glad that he looks like me, I don't think that he will be able to have the impact that Bruce Arians had on that locker room and on that field and calling those plays. I think that it also needs to be mentioned that the Buccaneers roster isn't as complete as it was a year ago. This isn't the same team that retained all 22 starters. There's going to be a lot of new faces seeing the field. So all of those things, I think can factor into Dallas shortening that 2 point deficit and bringing in a W, especially if they're playing, well, since they're playing at home. That's really important. The next game is against the Bengals. And the fresh thing on people's mind is that the Bengals were playing in the Super Bowl. Granted, they didn't win, but nobody remembers the struggles that they had to go through to get there. The Bengals lost against Chicago. I can't remember if Justin Fields started in that game or if he played in that game, but Cincinnati lost to Chicago. And I think that the masses, they only remember Cincinnati's playoff run and the Super Bowl appearance. They only remember Joe Burrow's playoff run. So I think that this progressing Dallas defense with all of the guys that have been drafted over the last 2 seasons, along with guys like Sam Williams that were taken this year, can really take advantage and be opportunistic against this also progressing Bengals offense, because we have to give them credit as well. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, are still two young and progressing players, and they get a full offseason this year. So I think that extra year or two, that guys like Trevon Diggs, guys like who else is going to be like a third year player. It's kind of hard to count on Kelvin Joseph now, but if he plays, guys like him, who would be going into his second year, but I think that having that larger variety of guys that this team drafted with a purpose on defense over the last 2 years would be able to overwhelm that Bengals offense. So yeah, I think that game is definitely winnable. But people like to hype up the guys that are playing against Dallas. Now we play the Giants in week 3 and in week 12, but the statement that I'm going to give kind of applies to both games. Doesn't matter if we're playing home or away there, right? The Giants have Daniel Jones as their quarterback. And as long as he is under center, and I know that divisional games are tough, but hear me out. As long as Daniel Jones is under center, we will always have an edge over that team in New York, And there's also apparently friction with Kadarius Toney, since they were trying to ship him off right around draft time. So, that doesn't help at all. He was one of the better guys against Trevon Diggs last year. So, there's that. But I don't see a scenario outside of injury where the New York Football Giants are a threat. Of course, there's any given Sunday. The NFL can monetize that statement. But in a heads-up situation, the Giants are not a competitive team with Daniel Jones under center and the variety of other issues that they have. Sure, they drafted well, but let's be totally honest about what they have right now, Going into week 4, Washington, the Commanders. We're gonna call them by their names. They're not the Wizards. They're the janitors, the compadres, anything like that. They are the Commanders, And they're the newest winner of the Carson Wentz sweepstakes, right? And he does improve them as a team. Let's be totally honest there. Carson Wentz does improve Washington as a team. But it's been shown that even with a top-tier running back and a top-tier defense like he had in Indy, that he can't necessarily take the team over the top, I do think that he may help out Terry McLaurin, but, Trevon Diggs put the clamps on him that he still hasn't figured out how to get out yet. So there's that. how much he helps them remains to be seen. Um, Washington's defense also has been allegedly stout up front, but that front hasn't shown up yet. Um, Fedarian Mathis, wonderful prospect, is the newest addition to that group, and I guess we'll see how much pressure they can generate outside of Chase Young. Um, I should be at one of those games too. I should be at that game in Washington. Since I stay in Virginia, I short drive, but that'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if that front can finally generate pressure, because prior to this, that allegedly stout defensive front has not been a threat, and the Cowboys have been able to succeed against them. Um, to to the effect of a sweep. But hey, who am I? I'm just a YouTube guy. And once again, that statement stands for week 5 and 18. I would love to see, the team kind of improve as things go on, because I don't want to go to a game where nothing matters. But hey, that's kind of biased. But hey, whatever. Now we played the Rams in week 5, and that's a game that I'm really looking forward to, because I think of it like as a measuring stick. Because the Rams kind of do this thing where free agency doesn't really they play the free agency game like the cap doesn't exist. So they got a lot of big names, right? But also at the same time, Matthew Stafford struggled for a stretch last year. He kind of reverted back to some of his old ways, and threw some of those games away, along with some mistakes by the team. Let's be honest there. And he got it right by the end of the year, and it led to a Lombardi. Shouts out to him. But boy, do I see a quarterback that can be exploited by an opportunistic defense. And that's what Dallas has. But like I said, the Rams play the free agency game so well. But that don't really scare me, no. I think that the Cowboys travel very well to LA. So, there's that kind of quote unquote advantage where it's kind of like a second home game. Well, an additional home game. And they can, stand up with them offensively anyway. And I'm really interested to see how that game turns out. Now, in week 6, we play against the Eagles. It kind of pisses me off to hear Philly fans, talk all of that. We want Dallas, rah-rah stuff, like the Commanders did last season, even though they saw what we did to them after they did that last season. We kind of, laid hands on them, disrespectfully. And then we also beat Philadelphia by multiple touchdowns, 20 to 30 points in each game last season, also to the effect of a sweep. And sure, Philadelphia got better. I think that anyone can admit that after seeing the draft and, things like that, and I think that they retained a lot of high priority free agents. That's great. But did they get 20 to 30 points better per game? Also, did Jalen Hurts become a guy who can throw more than 15 to 18 touchdowns a year? Because that's what he is right now. And if he can't, then it doesn't matter how many Devonta Smiths or A.J. Browns you have, because he'll just end up throwing more picks to Trevon Diggs. And speaking of Trevon Diggs, he will also have the opportunity to progress, given that this is his first unrestricted COVID-free offseason. We talk about progression with all of these other teams. We're forgetting that the same thing applies to the Cowboys, So there's that. I think that Philly fans piss me off just because people talk about the Cowboys and their fans' overinflated sense of accomplishment and things like that, and I'm guilty of it. I will admit it. I am an overzealous Cowboys fan. Cool, but boy, when it comes to Philly fans, it makes me itch. Oh, it makes me itch. But I do not see a world where um, Jalen Hurts has become, a 35 touchdown per year quarterback. Um, Now we play the Lions in Week 7. Do I have to spend a lot of time on this? I think that Jared Goff is still mediocre. I think that the coaching isn't great. Even though they finished the season at 3-3. But the kicker might be the best scorer on that team. So it's like, how do you manage that? How do you think that they can compete against a team with even a marginally competent offense? But yeah, man, I do not see a world in which the Cowboys lose to the Lions. Of course, it's any given Sunday, sure, but man, it would not be it would not be a good world if that happens. That would be a trap game, right? But man, but let me see this. Let me check out the chat box, man. I'm sorry, I've been ignoring you guys, right? Let me pull this up. Let's see. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I had to get the chat box up, man. I can't be ignoring y'all. That's kind of bad for business. Kind of bad for business. But let's see here. I appreciate you, Joe. I appreciate you. New name should be the Commandos. How about the Commodores, man? How about the Commodores? I don't know if you listen to old school cookout music, Joe. But here's the thing. We go into week 8 and play the Bears, right? I'm gonna get back into things. We played the Bears in week 8. Remember when I said that the Bears beat the Bengals, who appeared in the Super Bowl? I think that the Bears front office has done no favors to Justin Fields. He was average already as the year went on, but they went on and got him a clown car full of undrafted free agent rookie receivers. Undrafted rookie free agent receivers. There we go. I got it. Tongue twister, right? But it is not going to be easy for him to adjust with no additional real talent at the receiver position. And that is awful for a young quarterback. Really sad to hear. So once again, that's another one of those trap games where if the Cowboys lose that game, oh boy, there will be pandemonium. And I'm sure that everyone can agree. And then we have the bye week, of course, much needed rest there in week 9, and I think that is a perfect kind of position for it. But in week 10, I hate Green Bay, bro, because I think that Aaron Rodgers has the Cowboys number. Even if he's disgruntled, even if he dodges all of the meetings and goes on podcasts and says that he's the smartest guy in that locker room and he doesn't care about Matt LaFleur, all of that stuff, still has the Cowboys number, and it makes me sick. He's won 8 out of the last 9 confrontations with Dallas. So, any given Sunday, and it's in Green Bay, I wasn't going to go to that game. I looked at it for a second, but I wasn't going to. ticket there. It's gonna be cold. I think that's in the beginning of November too. But yeah, any given Sunday, right? Um, I'm gonna hope. I'm gonna have some thoughts about that one. Uh, but if you move on to uh, week 11, we, and I say we being the Cowboys, have amazing history against the Vikings. It's kind of like the switch with what we have against against Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins probably hates playing against Dallas because no matter where he's played, and yeah, Coach B, sorry, it's kind of coming in slow. Yeah, no O line help, no wide receiver help. Justin Fields has had a bad time. It has not been good, but I guess they're trying to do something for him defensively. We'll see. It has not been good. Um, but yeah, Kirk Cousins hates playing against Dallas because whether he was in Washington in his time there and when he's been against in Minnesota, he has not had fun against Dallas. And it has not mattered who's been under center. Cooper Rush beat him. I mean, come on, they expected to win that game. But sure, Justin Jefferson is progressing, and they have been drafting decently well. But I mean, history will continue to repeat itself, right? I mean, that's what Cowboys fans say about the Packers. So why not say it in our favor, right? I could see many a world, and many a world where we continue to roll them this game. And I like that word, Coach B. If we're gonna roll Green Bay, this would be the year. I hope so. I think didn't they lose to Darius Smith? He went to like Baltimore or something like that. I think. Um, I hope so, man. That would be outside of any divisional win. That would be the one that would warm my heart. Um, I generally uh, will try to maintain composure in any of those losses that aren't like divisional losses. But that would be the one that would make my heart sing. It would. Because that is when you lose to somebody that you know that can whoop you every single year, and it's like the league continues to put us up against Aaron Rodgers. So finally getting that win, oh boy, it will put the league on notice. Um, because people expect us to lose that game. Green Bay probably looks at that game as a trap game, if we're being honest. Because when is the last time that they've lost against us? You know? Yeah, that would be the one. I don't know. I don't watch too many of those sports talk shows on the networks. Um, but yeah, I would watch them that day. I would watch them that day with a smile and my cup of coffee in the morning. Now let's see. I discussed. Oh yeah, no Devontae Adams. Yeah, he went to Vegas. Yeah, man, he probably gambling right now. I'm on the East Coast, so it's the sun might still be out for him. He might be in the casino, getting the lady to blow on his dice, right? Um, but let me see. I discussed the Vikings, and we play the Giants in week 12, which see my thoughts in week 3. Daniel Jones is their quarterback. They have friction with their allegedly number one young wide receiver in Kadarius Toney. Um, they are the Giants. So I think that we're going to continue to beat them. Bring out your brooms, right? But once you go into week 13, and that we're gonna play the Colts, and this is gonna be kind of bad for me because my wife is a Colts fan. So in the Frankly Football household, there's going to be a lot of friction on that particular day. And if she's in my chat box, she may be interacting with some of y'all right now. I'm not sure. But once we beat the Colts, because I think that we will, the Colts have downgraded at the quarterback position, and their team took a hit at free agency with a lot of guys departing. They're a weaker team than they were last year, but because I love my wife, I will say this positively. I think that Matt Ryan possibly won't keep them out of games in a way that Carson Wentz did. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, if, the Cowboys have improved at stopping the run, I don't think that Jonathan Taylor will possibly run the ball all over us because if Jabril Cox is healthy, that will free Micah up to, do Micah Parsons things. And Jabril Cox is an amazing cover linebacker. I think that, as a prospect, I think that he was the best cover linebacker in his class. But, that is going to be a that is going to be a stressful day in the Franklin football household, And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that. I see you in the chat box. Now in week 14, the Texans aren't a good team. They needed more draft picks because they have holes everywhere. You feel what I'm saying? But they didn't have more draft picks. So there's kind of like that. So is Davis Mills still their starter? I can't remember. But yeah, that is one of those games one of those situations where I don't really have to waste a lot of my time talking about it because the Texans are bad, bro. The Texans are really bad. And I don't think that they're playing to be competitive this year. They're playing to draft the quarterback of the future next year. Whoever that may be, whoever they decide that they like, But when we're talking about teams who may or may not be bad, I think that the Jaguars are interesting. Maybe Sunshine progresses. Maybe ETN comes back and is explosive. But there's nothing for certain about that team. You feel what I'm saying? I think that they can be beat by an opportunistic defense and a strong offense. Guess what we have? But I think that one thing that I've said with just general football talk, whether it be at the barbershop or whatever, is that if you gave Trevor Lawrence an offensive line, that he would have been able to succeed. I think that they worked toward doing that. So I think that the Jaguars will be an entertaining team to watch, but I do not think that they would be a team that would be able to beat the Cowboys. You understand what I'm coming from? But yeah, it's gonna be a fun game. It's gonna be in Florida. If the tickets are cheap, hey, I gotta talk to my wife about that one though. You feel me? Now in week 16 we play the Eagles. I think that the Eagles are a good enough team to where I don't know if we sweep them 2 years in a row. But once again, how much has Jalen Hurts progressed as a passer? You feel what I'm saying? I'm gonna kind of expand on the AJ Brown discussion. AJ Brown was, 1,000-yard receiver with Ryan Tannehill. And guess who we play after the Eagles? But Ryan Tannehill, I think, is a better passer of the ball than Jalen Hurts. When did Jalen Hurts become a guy that, that fans anyway tout as, a receiver a quarterback that would elevate a receiver beyond what they were with their previous team? I do not see that. In fact, many of the Eagles fans that I talk with group chats that I have on my phone right now were saying that this will be the prove-it year for Jalen Hurts. They were not even sold, but that's just an offhand thing. The general public thinks that this is Jalen Hurts' prove-it year. This will be the year that he may be replaced if he does not step it up. If he doesn't progress as a passer, if he doesn't throw more than 16 touchdowns, if he doesn't throw a pick six to Trevon Diggs, multiple in fact. So when did Jalen Hurts become a guy? And when did AJ Brown become an elite receiver? Top tier. Don't get me wrong, he's very good. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. But is he the best receiver in the NFC East? Man, please. But that being said, I think that the Eagles are, and excuse me, allow me to put my Clark Kent suit back on because I didn't mean to turn up on y'all like that. But I don't think that there is a high likelihood of sweeping the Eagles 2 years in a row. I think that the Eagles are a good enough team to be competitive in at least one of those games. I'm not sure if there are going to be two 20 to 30 point losses by Dallas. You feel what I'm coming from? Because divisional games are tough. Divisional games are tough. I will give y'all that. But show me first. Show me first before you say we want Dallas and Kobe Dean is the next Micah Parsons and all of that on Twitter in May, in the middle of May. Got me upset. That's why my music is so calm and relaxing. To calm me down, to stop me from, transforming into the Hulk. But hey, it is what it is. In week 17, we play the Titans with the aforementioned Ryan Tannehill, led by the best player. Jesus, I was about to say blessed player. That's what Derrick Henry is. He's blessed. An amazing player. He's a tank on legs. And they happen to have a strong O-line. And they have a defense. So you would think that this would be a great game, right? I think that Ryan Tannehill holds them back. I think that they are a team that can lose in the hands of their quarterback. And with this Dallas team that has a Micah Parsons that's going into year 2, that has a Trevon Diggs that is going into year 3, that has a Sam Williams that will hopefully, and based on rookie minicamp, he's doing great. He's getting some bend, some wiggle that we haven't been able to see in some of his workouts, when he worked with Dan Quinn. But I think that this team can get after Ryan Tannehill. I will not say that they will be able to get down Derrick Henry. That dude is he's a walking weapon of mass destruction. But we will see, because running the football is an area where we have struggled. Well, defending against running the football is an area where we have previously struggled. I'm very interested, and I'm upset that it came so late, but I think that this will be one of the games where we can see how well everything came together before the playoffs happened. You feel what I'm saying? Because ideally, you want to play 19 games. You want to get into the playoffs, play one or two more games, and when the championship happens, place it in God's hands, But I'm upset that this measuring stick happened so late, but there's a bright side to this. There's a silver lining, With this coming so late, this will allow the coaching staff to be able to assess where their run defense is, because that is a major area of struggle that happened in 2021, and you cannot repeat the same mistakes. History can't repeat itself right there, because San Francisco ran all over them and passed all over them. So we'll see how it happens, right? And one thing that I do want to say about this last stretch before we go into the last game against the Commanders, right? I think that this whole stretch of November is very friendly to Dallas. They only played, if I'm reading correctly, 3 games in stadiums that aren't domes. Well, that's kind of like a contradiction, right? three games in what complexes? What's the right word? In open air stadiums, and in November, not being exposed to the cold is a godsend. Sure, Green Bay in the cold is brutal. Philadelphia in the cold, in the December cold at that, is brutal. Isn't the Titan Stadium open air? I'm not a fan of them. I don't know, but I think that that's the last one. Jacksonville is warm, so that is what it is. Uh, but yeah, everywhere else. Oh, and Washington. Yeah, Washington. Um, but everywhere else is going to be fairly warm or inside of a dome. So very thankful for that. Um, Now this last game against the Commanders. You know how I spoke about Philly, uh, about how it would be very difficult to sweep them. I don't feel that way about the Commanders. Um, there's like overwhelming confidence that we can sweep the Giants. Overwhelming confidence that hey, maybe Philly can take a game. I'm like right in the middle with the Commanders. I think that the Commanders are a team that have they done enough to be truly competitive against the Dallas defense? And is their defense really what they say it is to stop the Dallas offense? Their defense is, up front anyway, supposed to be one of, if not the best in the league. And I love seeing this here. Coach B said, I think in the last two drafts, we were dedicated to making us better against defending the run. Ridgeway, Big Bo, Sam Williams, in addition to Tank and other vets. So the Commanders, they love, what's the name of their running back? Antonio Gibson. He cannot keep his hands on the ball, and B, is their offensive line able to stop that onslaught of pressure that can be coming from those guys? Because it seems like every guy that is opposite DeMarcus Lawrence seems to be, having a great time. Seems to be, on a speed race to the quarterback. At least that's what it's been for the last 2 or 3 years since Robert Quinn, anyway. But has Washington done enough offensively to be able to keep up with this Dallas offense? I don't think so. I say no. Nay, say I. So I do not see a scenario where Washington wins. That some would say that is a biased take. But Carson Wentz gives the ball away. He's famous for giving the ball away. You can ask any Indianapolis fan. He kept them out of the playoffs against the Jaguars last season. All he had to do was beat the Jaguars in sunny Florida last season, and he couldn't do it. But you want him to now go and play in an open air stadium because Indianapolis had a dome. He's now going to be playing in an open air stadium, which can get cold in the winter. And now has to play against better cornerbacks, better defensive fronts, and now you expect him to give the ball away less? Oh, come on, please. I scoff at thee. Please. Now, I hate to sound biased, but realistically, I look at this schedule, right? And I give this Dallas Cowboys team, and I talked myself up a lot, right? But I give this Dallas Cowboys team 11 to 12 wins. And that is somehow throwing away one of the wins, two of the wins, maybe even three of the wins that I talked myself up and talked, hopefully, you, some of my listeners, up into, right? And yes, Joe Washington can be windy. Some of those balls that are already errant from Carson Wentz can be led by the wind, but hey, that's just me. Um, but I could really see this Cowboys team as a 11 to 12 win team. And although we don't have the same, magical feeling deep in our stomach, that just made us feel warm and fuzzy inside that we had last year, right? It might not feel different, but it's gonna feel competitive because the division that we play against, our natural division is a little weaker, right? The division that they have us playing against, with Tennessee, Jacksonville, so on and so forth, Indianapolis, the Texans, pretty weak. I think the strongest team there is Tennessee. Uh, and then we play the Lions and the Vikings, Green Bay, and Chicago, right? So it's an easy schedule, bro. It's an easy schedule. And the public might not agree. They may be all woe is me, but that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to talk y'all off of the cliff, to put some hope into y'all. Because while things may not have ended the way that people hoped that it did last year, everybody's 0-0 right now. Everybody's record is the same. Now, that's all I got as far as the schedule. Let me kind of pull this up. Get rid of all of my notes, right? Because that's how I talk. My brain runs on notes. Otherwise, I'd be all over the place. I hate saying and things when I talk, so I keep notes. And that way I can pull up the chat box. Be able to interact with y'all a little bit before we say peace and head out. If this thing would actually pull up. I'm having a little issues with OBS, but it is what it is. Y'all tell me what y'all think about the schedule. Who are y'all worried about? Who are y'all not worried about? What's your confidence level? 0 to 10. Let's see what we got. Looking forward to it. I think everybody's looking forward to the preseason games, Joe. We get to see all of these rookies. Now, unlike all of the previous seasons, we haven't got to see too many of the guys that were drafted in the previous two drafts. So in 20 and 21, we still got to see a lot of these guys that are progressing. So we're gonna see, hopefully anyway, a lot of those guys in those 3 preseason games. Hopefully we get a 4th. If not, okay. But we're going to get to see a lot of progress and a lot of prospects that, hopefully can make the team in various positions. Guys like Oso Odigizua, Simi Fahoko, guys that may or may not be on the coach's radar, different positions, Once again, the aforementioned Kelvin Joseph, based on the outlook of his situation, who knows? But yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to preseason as well. Kind of sad that it's reduced to 3 games, but I think that's what the players wanted. That's how it works out. Man, my wife in the chat box, she thinks that they're going to beat us. She's a Colts fan. That week is going to be stressful for the Franklin football household. Y'all pray for me because because after we win, right after the Cowboys win, uh, it's not gonna be good for me. But I'm gonna treat her right. I'm not gonna brag to her too much. Okay, so you're Joe. You only worried about Green Bay and the Bengals, huh? I can dig it. I can dig it. Green Bay, um, Aaron Rodgers, bro. Aaron Rodgers, man. But the Bengals do not scare me nearly as much as the public says they should. Um, but also at the same time, I'm a big Samaje Perine fan. Loved him coming out of college. I'm a fan of Oklahoma. So I love to see him and Joe Mixon on the same team again. Kind of brings back those college vibes. Coach B, you saying 11 wins is the minimum. It's not about the slow start. It's all about the slow start in those first two games. Yeah, I hope that with Kellen Moore's offensive philosophy, if he has one now, that they can maintain a velocity, offensive velocity throughout the entire game. I trust Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn I trust. But Kellen Moore needs to keep that offensive fire, stroked up throughout the entire game, throughout all four quarters, right? For me to maintain my trust in him. Because I trusted Kellen in years past. But he needs to regain my trust. You feel where I'm coming from? And yeah, Joe, I think we can beat the Packers too because it's any given Sunday. But history has not allowed my confidence level to be high because Aaron Rodgers has laid hands on the Cowboys in 8 of their last 9 matchups. And history seems to repeat itself. But if you ask me if I am fearing Aaron Rodgers, no, because I do not fear any of these teams that we play against. But going into Green Bay in November, I would love to see us go in there and get a W. I will be vocal. I will be like King T'Challa in Avengers Infinity War, standing on the front lines. Bombay. I would be insufferable. Needless to say. But man, I don't want to take up too much more of y'all time, man. I just really wanted to talk about this season, my outlook on it. Especially before we get to camp, because things could change. I think that the rookies that we have drafted and undrafted rookie free agents that were brought in, we get more information about them, as well as veteran players, as well as second and third year players. We get a lot more information about them as camp goes on. And yes, Joe, we do owe the Bucks a beat. We owe them. 2 points was not enough to bring down my confidence level about the fact that I think that we can beat them. And Bruce Arians is not their coach anymore. I think that a lot of those guys, both young and old, needed his leadership. And even though Todd Bowles looks like me, I am not sure if he can provide that leadership. I think that we can go in there and beat up on some of those guys, especially the new faces that are starting in certain positions this year. But it was fun. I don't go live often enough. I am going to do it more, even if it's for shorter sessions than this. I am Brandon. This is Frankly Football, and y'all have a good night.